I mean, I obviously, there's a million questions asking for an update on Starship and when it's going to go again.
Yeah, so let's see. There are really a tremendous number of changes between the last Starship flight and this one. But I mean, well over 1,000. So I think the probability of this next flight working is, getting to orbit is much higher than the last one. Maybe it's like 60%. It depends on how well we do at stage separation. So we made a sort of late-breaking change that's really quite significant to the way that stage separation works, which is to use hot staging, what's called hot staging, where we light the engines of the upper stage or ship while the first stage or booster stage engines are still on. So we shut down most of the engines on the booster, leaving just a few running, and then at the same time start the engines on the ship or upper stage, which obviously that results in kind of blasting the booster. So then you've got to protect the top of the boost stage from getting incinerated by the upper stage engines.
Yeah.
So this is something that the Soviets and Russians have used quite a bit in their rocket designs. The performance, there's a meaningful payload to orbit advantage with hot staging that is conservatively about a 10% improvement. Well, depends on what it's being compared to, but let's say in this case roughly 10% improvement in payload to orbit if you basically just never stop thrusting. That's a quote.
That sounds like a T-shirt. That's a T-shirt.
Yeah, never stop thrusting, Elon Musk. Basically, the moment the rocket stops its engines, it actually starts falling. So you actually want to. You don't want to be coasting. You don't want to be in a situation where the engines are not on, because you just immediately start falling back to Earth, unless you're already in orbit. So you want to have a kind of a non-stop thrust situation. I think we also had some concerns about. I think I can continue. So. Let's see. So yes. So you want to just, like I said, you want to start the ship engines before you've completely shut down the booster engines. In order to do this, you actually have to have vents, or that basically the super hot plasma from the upper stage engine's got to go somewhere. So we're adding an extension to the booster that is almost all vent, essentially. So that allows the upper stage engine plume to go through the sort of vented extension of the booster, and not just blow itself up. So this is the most risky thing, I think, for the next flight. And we'll have to add a bunch of shielding to the top of the booster.
Do you have a best guess on when the next flight will be?
There's a lot of variables here that are outside of our control. We think probably the launch pad upgrades and the booster and ship are already in about 6 weeks. So that's the best of our knowledge right now. There's a massive upgrade of the launch site that's happening. So we're putting roughly 1,000 cubic meters of steel reinforced high strength concrete below the pad, and then on top of that we have a sort of a steel sandwich, which is basically a very thick plate, two thick plates of steel that are welded together with channels going through it. So you basically have like this water-cooled steel sandwich, and then there are perforations in the top, so it'll actually shoot a lot of water out of the. It's basically, think of it like a gigantic upside down shower head. So it's going to basically blast water upwards while the rocket is over the pad to counteract the massive amount of heat from the booster. Like the booster is basically like the world's biggest cutting torch. It's with a massive amount of force. So it's not just heat, but also a massive amount of force. So we think we're actually going for overkill on the steel sandwich and the concrete. So that should leave the base of the pad in much better shape than last time. We'll also be doing a higher thrust to weight liftoff. So it will just spend less time. It will spend less time on the ground.
I know you've addressed this a little bit, but given everything you just outlined, do you have regrets that you didn't do this previously? This kind of infrastructure work?
Well, hindsight is 20/20. So yeah, of course we have regrets. But that is irrelevant. Like, what could we do without knowing the answer?
Have you also addressed and solved some of the engine issues that it looked like there were on the first stage?
Yes.
Could you you have any specifics on what you did?
There's a lot. The engines on the last rocket were somewhat of a hodgepodge. It was, so those engines were built and tested over a period of a year. Some of the issues, it's going to get very inside baseball if I get into this stuff with basically about 0.1% of people knowing what I'm talking about. But
I think there's some people out there that are into it.
yeah, about 1 in 1,000 people maybe. But we have what's called a hot gas manifold. It takes the fuel-rich gas from the fuel side power head, transfers it to the main chamber, transfers it to an area above the main chamber where it then mixes with aux-rich gas and goes to the main chamber and combusts. We made a number of improvements to that hot gas manifold, which is arguably the riskiest part of the engine. It's also something that is subject to hot gas leakage, which is a sort of methane-rich hot gas leaking through the bolt holes of the fuel manifold. So because you've got it's something that it gets very hot. So when something gets very hot, it can gap. So an improved design of the hot gas manifold, as well as higher torque on the bolts of the hot gas manifold to minimize potential for hot gas fuel leakage at high pressure is perhaps one of the single biggest improvements. So Man, I'm in the wrong place here. So, well, I think we'll have to call this in about 5 minutes. So, if there's questions you want to ask, I would just choose them carefully.
Can we go rapid fire?
Yeah.
All right. How much has SpaceX invested in Starship to date?
I don't know the exact number, but it's over 2 billion. Maybe this year would approach 3.
Is that about in line with what you expected going in?
It's not far from it.
Somebody was asking, what's the most difficult technical challenge that still needs to be solved to get Starship to regular commercial flights?
We don't know with accuracy what the most important thing is because we've not yet reached orbit. If we knew what it was, we would actually fix it before launching. So in launching, what you're doing is trying to resolve the unknowns, which you cannot know before you launch, or at least we are not smart enough to know. So, but like I said, what appears to be the biggest risk right now is stage separation.
Okay.
So,
I don't know if this counts as rapid fire, but this is a question that's been top of mind for me. When I wrote my book about you, it was so clear to me that SpaceX was your baby. And I always assumed as time went on, you would start spending less and less time elsewhere and more on SpaceX. And then you acquired Twitter and spent a ton of time on that. You've been consumed by AI. Does SpaceX still occupy, SpaceX and the quest for Mars still occupy the same level of space in your head, or do you feel now you're pulled in all these other directions and things are different?
yeah, I'm not sure. Is there a question there?
Yeah, I mean, are you still as dead set focused on Mars as kind of your life's quest, or are you more concerned about other things now?
We're trying to get to Mars as fast as possible. There are other concerns like AI, and obviously I'm still committed to Tesla.
I'm going to go off space just for a second since I only have a couple minutes and there's loads of questions. What is the status of your new AI company?
That is not for this subject, for this call.
You're never shy to answer questions?
You have 2 minutes left.
Okay. When we were talking before on Twitter, you said you wanted a technical CEO, but you did not hire a technical CEO. How did you come to that decision?
This is next question. You have 1 minute left.
You said in your note that we would talk about things beyond space. You tweeted it out.
Yes. Well, literally the title of this is The Rise of Commercial Space. So this is not an open-ended, thanks. Actually, the call is now terminated.
All right. I saw that, I was just following what you said on there. I thought we'd have a little opportunity. You sure? And like that, he's gone. Well, I tried my best. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I enjoyed it. Thank you.